Hello everyone, and welcome back to another track tutorial video. Today for you I have Oregon Raceway Park in the clockwise configuration. This is a super technical track. I think it's a ton of fun. It's very rewarding to drive when you get it right. I think clockwise is easier, counterclockwise is just insanity, but they're both great. I think today's track video, if you're new, you'll kind of just learn what to expect. If you're intermediate, maybe it'll give you some more insights as to how to think about some of the corners. If you're advanced, maybe it'll just give you another thoughts on how to approach different corners. I think this is a very technical track, like I mentioned. There's a lot of camber, there's a lot of elevation, there's a lot of complex corners here. I think car control and advanced car control is definitely something that's rewarding here. So this video is going to talk less about probably like all of the clipping points, and it's going to talk about more what to expect as elevation and camber changes throughout the track. And that's mainly what I'll be focused on. So hopefully you enjoy the video, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk through Oregon Raceway Park. So yes, first of all, I am using YouTube. I've had a bunch of technical issues on this video. Let's not get into that. Let's get into the video. Headed down the front straight, you will notice that already the elevation is coming into play. So right up there at that little point is actually our brake marker. And our corner is this right-hander that we can't even see. So we're starting off with a nice blind corner into the track. Now, the first corner, while it's not particularly sharp, you will be going 100 plus on the straight in most cars and slowing down to probably anywhere between 60 and 80 miles an hour for this corner. That means that this is going to be a pretty serious brake zone. Even in my high grip, low power S2000, I have to get on the brakes at the latest at the 2 marker in order to make this, so definitely feel free to brake well before. You're going to be braking straight. It is a bit weird. You do end up kind of crossing this pit line, but that's definitely the fastest way on the track. So as we head towards this first corner, we brake here, and this is a nice, pretty standard textbook corner, relatively late apex. I think I'd brake, alright, try to apex just maybe a little bit past this cone here. The important thing here is, even though we're going into another corner, get on the throttle nice and early. It's going to help get the car's suspension set, get it nice and stable, and help maximize actually just our speed around the whole corner. So get on power, maintaining power, and getting back into it. You can see pretty much as soon as this corner ends, we're already headed into the brake zone of the next corner. Now as we enter this brake zone, we're headed into a corner that enters us onto the straight. Because we're entering a straightaway, that means we want to maximize this corner for exit speed. The way that we do that is we do a little bit later of an apex that's going to allow us to kind of kink off the corner a bit, but actually get on power early and maximize speed onto the straight. So as you come into here, you'll brake hard, and you'll see that I'm turning in almost just a little bit before the 0 marker and way past that cone. The reason why is that's going to allow me to turn in later and get on gas earlier. So I'm already pretty much floored right there in my car and maximizing that speed onto the straight. Now, as we come down the hill here, we are headed into a downhill brake zone. This means two things. One, you're probably going a little bit faster than you think you are because downhill the car's going to accelerate faster. And two, it's going to take a lot longer to brake down the hill. So do keep that in mind as you come into this brake zone. It's a very sharp left-hander, and we're going to brake hard, brake early, and make sure that we can hit our clipping points. Alright, so turn in, aim for that, and alright. Now, let's talk about this section. I like to think of turns 3, 4, which is kind of this right at the bottom of the hill, and 5, which is going to be coming back up the hill you can't quite see here, all as one complex. Now, that means that at the point that I'm turning in on 3, I'm already thinking about how turn 3 is going to affect turn 4 and how turn 4 is going to affect 5. And the way I do that is I personally give up a little bit on the exit of 3 to maximize turn 4 and then even do better on turn 5. So as we go right here, I'm going to be about half car width off of the exit of 3. The reason for this, so I can better set myself up for 4. Now, we want to put the car at the cone, but we don't just want to go ahead straight there. We want to kind of arc the car out there. And the reason for this is so that we can, again, carry nice speed through the next corner. Now, if you've watched my Ridge video, you're probably familiar with this concept. I talk about it, I think, in turn 16, as well as a few others. But basically, what we want to do here is start tracking the car out, but we're going to be turning in while fading the car out. So to watch this in action, you can see that I'm already starting to turn right, but as I'm turning right, the car is still going to be faded out towards the apex. Now, towards the corner entry. Now the reason we want to do this is because we want to have the car pointed in the right direction. So you can see by the time I get here, I'm already nice and pointed back towards where we want to go. Now if we look at this from the top and we turn in here, and let's say that we just head straight for the cone. If we head straight for the cone, which is slightly out of focus, if we head straight for the cone right there and just head straight towards it, the car's going to be pointed in completely the wrong direction. By kind of doing this arc out here, we're going to be able to set up the car a lot better for the corner. Now, I do want to mention, like doing this kind of line where you're kind of fading the car out to the outside of the track does take a bit of practice, particularly because this is an off-camber corner. I definitely recommend working on this whole section at a lower speed at the beginning of the day and working up your pace. If you start attacking this super hot, the line is going to be wrong all day long. It's going to be inconsistent. It's going to be really hard to recreate. Get the line right at the beginning. Figure out where you need to put the car first, how you need to point the car at different places. Once you have that down, start building up the speed. So let it fade out here and turn it. Right here is probably the most patience you will need on the whole track. It's really easy right now to start getting hard on the power if you're set up right. You see this cone, you're going to be able to make this cone no problem, and you see all the track that's out here. You got to be patient right here. So it's great to hit this cone here, but if you aim all the way out towards this cone here, you're going to be totally screwed for the turn-in on 5. So this is a concept that I've talked about before, but basically, if we have a corner that's into a corner, what we want to do is kind of maximize the speed throughout the section, right? Because it's just corners into corners. Now, if we have a corner that leads into a straight, we're going to want to give up a bit in the corner to maximize our speed onto the straight. So because turn 5 is heading into a straight, we want to give up a little bit in 4 so that we can really set ourselves up good for 5, which leads on to the straight. So as you're going through 4, you want to be a little bit patient here. Only use about half the track and get the car all the way to the right side for turn in. When you get the car all the way to the right side for turn in, it's going to be more stable, it's going to be less sharp of a corner. Now we're in corner 5. Corner 5 is, again, another technical corner. As you can see from here, we have a bit of camber working for us. We're going a little bit uphill, so the car is going to be stable, but we can kind of already get the sense that as soon as we cross that apex, we're cresting a hill, the car is going to get light, it's going to get upset. We're going to want to anticipate that. Now on the flip side, as soon as we get to the bottom of this hill here, the car is going to be going back up, the car is going to be under compression, it's going to have a ton of grip. So think about how much minimum speed you can carry around this section, and then trust the car on the exit. So you'll see car got a little bit light there, it's putting in some counter steer, and then lots of grip here to get on full power. So I think now that we've kind of talked that through, let's watch through this whole section again of 3, 4, 5 and kind of see how it all plays together. So brake hard here, give up just a little bit on the exit of 3, work on fading the car out to the outside, being super patient here so we can use just half the track and get all the way back to the right. Nice and early on power here. Trust that it's going to have grip on exit and lots of speed up to the hill. So that's kind of the 3, 4, 5 complex. Now we're at a point where we're climbing Valkyrie Hill. So we climb Valkyrie Hill and boom. Now we get to the blind crest corner at the top of Valkyrie. So for pretty much everyone I've talked to, this is probably the most scary corner at the track, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, you're in most times doing 100 plus, you're cresting a blind corner, you don't know where the track goes. It's going to take some confidence to build up to this one. The corner itself is not tricky, but first let's see it and then we'll talk about it. Alright, so not very eventful in this car. Let's get back to where we're at. Alright, so a couple things you probably noticed is first, when I went around the corner, I stayed really sharp to the right. The reason for that is, at the end of the day, we again want to be back to the right side of the track so we have a good turn-in for the next corner. Now, in low-power cars like mine, in the S2000, it's no problem. Turn in a little bit late, we can stick to the right side of the track, super easy. Now, if your car is going to be higher power, this is going to be a lot scarier. I can tell you from experience, my GTI is carrying at least another 10 miles an hour at this part of the track compared to the S2000, just because it had about 100 more horsepower. Now, if you are in a car where you do need a lift or, you lose a little bit of speed as you go across this to make sure the car's in the right place, Make sure you do that before you get to the apex of the corner. So you'll notice that's where the crest is, the car's going to get right. So I can tell you if you start lifting or thinking about lifting here, you're going to be in a bad position. So I can tell you in my GTI, I stupidly decided to lift once at the apex here, and I had my arms crossed, basically counter steering at about 105 miles an hour. Do not recommend it. I had to change my shorts for the next section. Next session. Anyways, point is, if you do need to slow down, do it before the apex. That's going to maximize just your confidence and make sure that nothing stupid happens as you go around this corner. Now, as you do go around it right here, I stay super close to the right. It's totally fine to use up to, the middle of the track to carry even more speed. It really just depends on how much power you have and what speed you're carrying around this corner. So now we get into yet another blind corner here. Let's watch it first, and then we'll talk about it. Alright, so now zooming back out to it, you can kind of see what's happening here. So this corner here is another one where you can see at the top, it's relatively flat and then drops off. That means we're going to have a decent amount of grip on the entry, but as soon as it starts going down the hill, the car's going to get light, not going to have a lot of grip. So as we go down that hill, we're really going to want to just be drawing a straight line from this cone to that next right cone that's at the bottom of the apex here, and we're going to want to get our cornering done on the top side. What this translates to in terms of a line is a nice late apex to get the turning done early and carry that speed down the hill. So you can see as I go down here, I'll turn in hard and then start to unwind, so just barely any steering angle in here as I'm going down the hill. Now as we approach this next section here, what you can already tell from here, and it doesn't feel like it is speed, is this is a sharp corner and it's really close. It's quite easy as you're coming down this hill to be like, alright, sweet, I nailed that corner, I can just go, full power into this thing. And while that's true, if you do that, it's really easy to blow out the apex on this corner. I will say it's an uphill corner, or it's an uphill brake zone, so it's very unlikely that you're going to just completely, blow off the track, but it is very likely that you'll brake too late and completely miss the apex. So you want to brake a little bit earlier than you think here, hit that apex and inside, and that's going to make the line shorter, the distance shorter, and actually set you up a lot better for the next section. So as we come in here, bleed speed early, we're going to fade out to about the middle of the track and then head for this cone. If you get all the way back into this cone, you know that you've slowed down enough and you've set yourself up really well for the corner. And when you've set yourself up for this corner, you can get on power nice and early and head into the corkscrew. The corkscrew is probably the most awesome part of Oregon Raceway Park. This video does not do it any justice. GoPro's in full effect. This corkscrew has insane camber in the corners. Like seriously, it's pretty much hard to stand up straight on this hill. It's so steep in real life. Definitely do a track walk of ORP if you have the opportunity. The corkscrew is wild. Now, in terms of driving it, what this means is this left-hander is in the corkscrew. It's going to have a ton of grip, and you're going to be able to carry way more speed through it than you think. Definitely feel the car in this part of the track. Get used to carrying speed. It's a super awesome feeling. As we approach it, you're going to head down towards this hill, grab the brakes real quick, and then head for the left-hander. So brake real quick and then head in. Now the important thing that you may notice there is I'm not immediately fully back on the throttle. The reason for this is as we head towards this corner here, we want a nice diagonal line so that we can maintain our momentum. If we blow out this first corner and put our car way over here, we're going to have to brake for this corner or lift or do something stupid and give it up. We want to just create a nice flowing momentum by giving up just a little bit there, setting ourselves really good for this entry. So hit that clipping point and then head out. Now, as you probably saw just there, the car bounced pretty good. ORP, particularly in the corkscrew, the berms can be pretty upsetting to the car. Now, if you're in a stock suspension car, or even really just maybe springs or something like that, car's probably going to be okay. If you do have a pretty stiff coilover setup, maybe it's like a full track car like mine is, these berms may upset your car. I do recommend setting up the suspension a little bit softer to kind of make sure you don't get thrown around too hard by these berms. Alright, getting back to the track. So maybe first let's rewatch that corkscrew section and then we can go from there. So top of the corkscrew, turn in, get in that power nice and hard heading down the hill, jab the brakes tight, little bit of patience right here, get back into it, maintain, let it flow out there, and boom. So that's the main part of the corkscrew. Now we've got another corner that's really typical where the camber changes midway through the corner. So let's watch it first, then let's talk. All right, let's see that one more time. All right. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. All right. So this corner here, again, as we're going up the hill, we're compressing the suspension of the car, we're going to have a ton of grip. As soon as we get a little bit past the apex, the track's going to go off camber as that hill kind of levels out, and the car's going to get super light. What this means is we want to turn in a little bit late, we want to turn in really hard to get our steering done, and then make sure that post-apex, most of our cornering is done, and we can straighten out pretty quickly. So you can see, turn in nice and hard there, start straightening out, and the car's set up pretty well. So again, just be aware of that. It's really easy to think that you can just draw a consistent line through that corner. If you do, what's going to happen is you're going to put at least 2 off. I know I certainly have done that in that corner. It's very deceiving how fast the pavement fades away once you cross that apex. Now we get into this kind of quasi-straight into a really sharp corner. Alright, so this corner itself, super simple corner, pretty textbook. Complex part, brake zone. The corner itself, if we look at about where this pull is out here, that's roughly where the turn-in point is, and then it's a sharp left-hander down the hill. Now, roughly speaking, there's 2 ways to approach this brake zone. Option 1, basically be about in the middle of the track and head straight towards the pole and brake nice and hard. If you prefer straight line braking, that's going to be your desired line of choice. If you're comfortable braking while turning ever so slightly, that's going to be option 2. So option 2 is we're going to take the wider line and brake while we're turning ever so slightly. You might ask, why would you want to do the outside line? Well, you can imagine if I come straight in, I'm going to make this corner quite sharp by kind of kinking it off right. Whereas if I come a little bit wider, it's going to open up this corner just a bit, give us just a little bit of min speed. That being said, it's not a huge difference. Definitely do what you're comfortable with. If you're trying to win, though, for those last tenths, I do think the wider line is a bit faster because it does widen that corner. But, braking and turning at the same time, it does take practice and good car control. So make sure you build up to something like that and don't, just launch your car off the edge of the track here, particularly if you don't have ABS. So kind of fade the car out here, brake nice and hard, and just hit all our clipping points where the cones are and get back onto it. So you can see the corner itself, not too complicated. The brake zone is really the tricky part there. Only other thing to note about that corner, it is slightly off camber, and it is very tight. I think most cars are doing, around 30 miles an hour, somewhere between 30 and 40 miles an hour. So it's a very slow corner. Do be aware, it's a hard brake zone. It's down a hill. Just make sure you brake as much as you need to. All right, so now we're headed into the final parts of the track, and while you can't quite tell here, it is an uphill brake zone, which means we can brake nice and late. And again, we're going to have a camber change, so let's watch it first, and then I'll go back. There's that camber change, and the car's getting loose. So just to kind of watch that from here again, the whole the whole corner is a bit off camber, so that means none of it the car's going to feel particularly great on, but there is a crest where it's going to get even more loose. This is a corner where really just focus on building up that minimum speed and figuring out how much momentum you can carry around it. There is that part where the car is going to get loose. Try to get more of your cornering, I think, done towards the end, but I think really this is just about, managing that minimum speed through the corner. So manage it, get on power, get ready for it to get light right there, and then start heading up the hill. Now as you head up the hill, this corner here, I think this is turn 15, it's just a slight kink. Most cars probably going to be able to be floored through it, no issue. If you do have a particularly high-powered car, just lift or give partial throttle to make sure that you can stick kind of towards the right as we approach the final corner. So if you need to, lift just a little bit there. And now we're headed in towards the final corner. This corner itself, despite the fact that, again, it's completely blind, the corner is not particularly complicated, but it is, probably one of the few places where if you screw up bad enough, you could put it into the inside wall. That being said, I think it's a pretty safe corner overall. The only other thing that I think is worth mentioning about it is as you enter it, there is this berm here. So if you're like, I'm going to use all the track and put the outside of the car in the berm, I would probably recommend you don't do that unless it's in like a very softly sprung car. If you try to brake onto the berm, there's a very good chance it's going to upset the car. Maybe it's going to engage APS. The car is going to be weird. Don't do it. I'd recommend braking and keeping it strictly on the blacktop. That's going to keep the car more stable and give you more solid entry. So break into this, slightly late apex, but again just hitting those clipping points and carrying that momentum onto the straight. And just like that, we've done a full lap at Oregon Raceway Park. So maybe let's just watch the whole thing and talk it through and see how everything looks all together. So crossing the straight here, braking nice and hard, and getting on throttle early, keeping the car nice and set up, pretty standard apex. As we get into this, brake late and turn in late, maximize for entry speed onto the straight here. As we head onto the straight here, it's just a straight line down the hill. We're going to carry lots of speed, but be ready for that brake zone. Downhill, it's going to take longer to slow down the car. Brake nice and hard, turn in at the cone, hit the next cone. Be willing to give up just a little bit here. Now work on fading the car towards the outside and being super patient on the turn in. As we turn in here, use about half the track, get all the way to the far right. Now set up nice and well onto the straight, feel it set in there, get full power, nice and solid up the hill. As we climb the hill, work it back to the left side, bleed a little bit of speed there if you need to, and get back on power as you crest the hill to keep the car stable. Brake just a little here, get the turning done early and draw a straight line as much as possible to the next cone. Brake earlier than you think here, making sure to prioritize hitting this inside cone and getting back on the throttle. Head hard down the hill, tap the brakes hard, and get on throttle a little bit. Be slightly patient to carry momentum through the next corner there. Brake hard, get the turning done early because the camber's going to go off corner. Be ready for it, and then head over the hill. Now be ready to decide which brake zone you're going to take. I'm going to take the wide line here, turning ever so slightly to try to maximize the amount of track. Nice slow corner there, hit all the clipping points, and back down this hill. Got an uphill brake zone so we can brake nice and late here. Slow it down, focus on carrying that minimum speed. Be ready for it to lose some traction on the exit. Head back right, make sure we're minimizing the distance on track, and head towards the right. Track out, but don't hit the berm. Brake ever so slightly, maximize that momentum around the corner, and sling it back onto the straight. And there we go. Full lap at ORP. So hopefully that was helpful for anyone new to the track. Certainly enjoyed making the video. It did take 3 tries and my voice is getting a little bit tired, so sorry about that. If you've made it to the end, thank you. If you want any more sections talked through in more detail, let me know. I love doing this stuff. If you have any more questions, leave it in the comments. Other than that, you can see I'm super proud. 52 and a naturally aspirated S2000 at ORP. Feel pretty stoked about that time. Hopefully this video helps you get faster, set some PBs. If you're new to the track, enjoy it. Oregon Raceway Park is awesome. Great track for learning car control, learning camber, just learning how to feel it. Enjoy your time and enjoy the video. Thanks everyone.